Pennsylvania.
We just have
Sir,
one more question.
your question regarding 488?
Right, getting back to the 488, in the first presentation, it was brought out that the workspace is actually 125 feet, not 110. For the agricultural properties, it's 125 feet. I think it's important that everybody understand that if they are in the 480, that 125 feet, the fact that, yes, trees can be grown anything outside the 50 later doesn't matter. If those properties, if that 125 feet is in the 480A at the time of the taking, that is going to be revoked, the full 125 feet, not the 50 feet.
Right. And the gas company needs to pay the penalties incurred for that.
And it's important that, I think sometimes that doesn't come through. I've seen this with cell towers. It is subject to negotiation between the owner and the company. There's not some government regulator that's going to say what the lease is going to say and what you're going to get and what you're not going to get. You have to be proactive.
In other areas, the gas company has stepped up and paid the expenses, but yes, you need to enter in a contractual agreement with these clauses in place so that it is adhered to, because you not only will lose that land from your 480A acreage and be penalized for it, you will also incur the harvest penalty too, once they cut the trees from this right away.
Not doing very good over
Right here.
We don't have that much forest that's going to be cut down, but we did buy the property for, just a fence, sort of, between ourselves and our neighbors, so that there would be all of these trees and everything like that. If you come through where they are suggesting you might be coming through our property, those are the trees, the fence, so to speak, are going to be cut down. And it's sort of like, wow, that's sad to think that, you buy this just to keep the trees there so that you can.
Can I ask, what's the width of your, it's a tree buffer?
What's the width and what's your acreage?
225 feet? From the first part, from the road, right?
Let's say the width
The width.
is going to vary, and it's probably 50 to several hundred feet.
Now, our alignment, as I've been saying, this is a preliminary process, and our alignment is not within the foot, so we may not be going through your.
Oh, good point. Oh, thank you.
Well, that's something, we have land agents, we have land agents that you can discuss this with. And also we'll have, throughout the process, when we're surveying, we'll have field engineers or construction engineers looking at the alignment and looking at workspace.
Can I ask one more question? Because directly across our street, that you can't have these big trucks on, it's going to be a problem, is a great big pond that goes totally in front, across the street, totally in front of our property, totally, of all of this. There's a pond there, with a spring and then the spring goes down, goes over to the Charlotte, is it? Yes. So, think about that. I mean, what would you do something like that? I'm sorry, I'm off the topic of trees, but.
No, because there's wetlands, you could obtain wetland status for that. That is well within the parameters of all this.
That's one of the reasons why we want to get out and do these field surveys, so that we can identify those types of resources. And then when our field engineers come behind them, we like to avoid those. We don't want to go through a pond, it's much more difficult construction. We can't do it, there are construction techniques to do it. But if at all possible, we like to go kind of the path of least resistance, and if that would mean avoiding a pond and springs, that would be what our preference is. Sometimes we can't avoid those, but as an initial routing, we try to avoid those types of features.
And you can bring this up with the land agent that contacts you for an open communication and all your concerns.
I did talk to him on telephone.
All that information is collected and written down. We keep track of that. So if we do the survey, if you don't do the survey, we still have that conversation, so we understand. We prefer to do the survey so these guys can find out exactly, we have a tree stand here, the landowner does not want us to get near it, we have a pond here. all these things are written down, and that will help us be able to align the final pipeline to try to take into consideration all these different issues.
One more question.
Just looking at the map here, and in somebody's remarks, or perhaps it was printed, it said that the point of this pipeline is to connect with the Iroquois Tennessee for both the New York's metropolitan area market and the Boston market. And it shows the existing pipelines, and instead of going 120 miles up to a Tennessee pipeline, why not go about 10 miles south to an existing Tennessee pipeline, which connects with, according to this map, the New York City metropolitan area, and it looks like it goes up toward Boston too.
The existing Tennessee gas line that you're referring to comes down, it does not, it goes up off the map, it doesn't extend all the way, it doesn't provide that volume of gas up to the Boston market. What they call their 200 line system is the one that brings their main amount of gas into the Boston market. So they really don't have the capacity on their line. They were just in the process of what's called looping their line, putting in a secondary line to bring additional gas down into New Jersey. Iroquois would be the one that would be bringing the gas down to New York City.
I had a question myself about the forestry. When the trees are cut, are they taken to a skidway, or are they just left?
A forest landowner needs to specify, it can specify and negotiate how the trees are removed. And if you don't find yourself knowledgeable with the expertise needed for this, there are many entities and organizations that provide you with the quick information, quick education you'll need so you can enter into negotiations so things are done properly. The handling and placement is proper so that it will expedite your moving the product, moving the trees, and selling them before you lose that window of opportunity they've previously mentioned.
So in other words, you know, anything that you want should be in the agreement. Don't leave it up to chance. If you want those trees removed, if you want to burn them yourself, whatever you want done with those trees, you really need to specify that.
And think about, we saw this on a project recently where there were stacking areas along the right of way for the trees, and of course the landowner couldn't really get to those trees, cut them up for firewood or to have them hauled out for logs or whatever until the construction was done. Once construction was done, the company had restored the right of way and had new seating on there, and then the landowner came in to get those trees and harmed the vegetation on the right of way and tore it up. So if you have trees and you are going to want them stacked someplace along the right of way for you to cut for firewood later or to have the logs taken out later or whatever the case may be, think about a place where you have access to them, where hopefully you don't have to disturb that freshly seeded right of way so that there's going to be damage to that. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind, is a place where you can have access to that without having to get on the right of way.
If you have initial access and egress which is impacted by the work, it behooves you to change your access and egress points or make multiple access and egress points so that you can avoid the problem. And you don't want to be blocked in, which will also incur penalties in your agreement.
Not on forestry, but at this point, or at least I thought there was an alternate A and an alternate B route. Has it been determined yet whether you're taking the one that goes over through Andes and Binghamton, or the one that's coming up through Davenport, or is it a done deal as far as the Davenport route?
I don't think we can talk right now that actual specific route.
Not the, you know, which you know, 100 feet this way, 100 feet that way, but just, at least, and maybe this is outdated now, but this route here, so we're talking about this route.
Okay, this was our very, very original route, and that goes through the Catskill, Delaware watershed.
Okay.
So that would immediately eliminate that for environmental. Okay, that's not happening. And actually, we had a preliminary route.
So that one's out now, and it's just,
And we do have alternates on this route that we'll be looking at, but it's very, it's a couple miles here and there, it's not that significant. The alternates or not proposing, we're investigating or looking at.
okay.
Okay.
At some point, you're gonna have to cross Route 23. Is that correct?
I can't answer that question specifically, but yes, but we'll be crossing quite a bit of roads and county roads.
No, this is the main road, Route 23.
So yes, we'll be crossing Route 23.
Right, there are specialized construction techniques that you can use to cross significant features like a major roadway. It's called a horizontal directional drill, where you can actually go underneath it without having to impact the road.
Because that's a main
Oh,
traffic.
you're asking if we're gonna open up a road, open and cut it? No, we would, right now we'd bore it or do a directional drill and not impact the road.
How far down would you do that? Simply because
Well-
those big trucks are going over that road all of the time.
I understand, it depends on if it's a directional drill or just a horizontal bore. Horizontal bore, Jim, could be 10, 5 or.
We talk about length?
Depth.
Down,
depth,
yeah,
depth.
because that's a main.
If we do it,
Yeah,
just a standard bore, road bore, slick bore.
Somewhere around 10,
So
10 feet.
approximately 10 feet underneath the road. A directional drill would be 50 feet. I mean, it's actually
Well, you
very,
do-
very deep, very deep.
You don't hear dirt 50 feet deep around here.
Well, actually boring.
Well, it's actually gonna be on the geotech, and we haven't taken samples in that area or anything, but it's gonna be on the soil strata in that area. And then you'll design that.
Crossing Route 10 out towards Summit, and you will have a hard time doing any damage to that section of Route 10.
Any other questions for the good of the order? Okay, we have some representatives here if you want to talk after. And hopefully this will just be the preliminary to the open houses in July. So look for those meetings, keep an eye on the paper,
One quick thing, this meeting tonight, is gonna be the same people here?
pretty much.
No different.
We'll have one other speaker.
And he will be,
He's a legal counsel,
okay,
Okay.
yeah.
thank you.
But it's not here, is it? It's in Franklin.
No, it's in the Franklin School tonight at 7. Yes.
And is there, obviously, the one map I have is kind of outdated, is there any specific kind of map, more than just what's in, yeah, but that's pretty basic.
I think they will be coming to your towns, to your individual towns. And I think like folks said, it's still in a state of one way or the other.
Anybody that this crosses, if you talk to your land agent and say, I'd like to see where it looks from my property, they'll be able to get back to you. They'll have a zoomed-in picture of your property, which will have just a red line on it, and all the red line means is 300 foot on one side and the other will be our study corridor. It doesn't mean that's where the pipeline's gonna go, that's just, for us, that marks where the corridor route is going.
How
We're
do
doing
you
our
get
study.
that? That person comes to your house?
You can do it a couple of ways. You can request that in a letter. We had sent letters to everybody. You can return that letter, request it. You can call us on the phone. You can also, a land agent may or may not have contacted you already. He would be the one to get in touch with you. He'll be the actual one that can hand it to you.
Well, how come you didn't hand it to me when I spoke with them?
Not doing that. Well, no.
They're not doing that. They gave me no,
evasive about
let me explain to you, they came to me. They didn't come to my neighbors on any sides of me. only me, and I own 160 acres, but he couldn't tell me vaguely where they might put this pipeline.
Right,
So what is he asking? They want to just send people in and walk around and decide later?
No,
You have to have something in your mind when you're building a road. That's what you're building.
you know, when we have,
I saw detail maps originally when the B line was going to come from up on the ridge there.
is that with Tennessee Gas maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, that's their business, that's how they do it.
But they have real red pipeline, right? And it showed with the different properties. But nobody can tell me that. And I own the biggest piece of property that it's in that.
Sure. Boy, I'll give you my card. You can certainly call me.